I think it's that drive and that work ethic and never giving up. I think most people give up way too soon. What's next for me? I've been saying this, but I'm really gonna start doing it. I'm gonna be doing motion picture films. I wanna do something called Colorblind, which is about me as an artist, like growing up, and how everyday people don't see what we see.
What's more valuable, $500,000 in cash or a meal seasoned with the wisdom of a luminary? This is the tantalizing question that sparked the birth of a groundbreaking show, Lunch with the Luminary.
Thank you for joining today's episode of Lunch with a Luminary. We have a little ambiance for our lunchtime today with the rain and the thunder, but all good. Today, we're going to be talking to Derek Blanks. He's a photographer, director, television personality, and visual artist. He operates a full-service production company that offers photography, album package design, you name it, video production, all those things. Now, you may know him for those amazing alter ego shoots and his social media content. He is a content king, but whether he is the subject himself or a director, Derek Blanks has created a path of his own. He's appeared on Housewives of Atlanta, My Fair Wedding with David Tutera, and so many more. He's worked with Oscar award-winning actors like Monique, Viola Davis, Jennifer Hudson, Cuba Gooding Jr. I could take up the whole lunchtime just talking about his resume, but I'm so excited to have you join me today for lunch.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Absolutely. So now we're gonna dive right into the conversation because you are amazing at your craft. But I also know for a lot of the entrepreneurs that I talk to, being in the creative space is not easy. So can you talk a little bit about when did you know that you were absolutely going to pursue a career in photography or visual arts?
All my life I knew that I was going to be an artist, starting even in elementary preschool,
Preschool?
Yeah, when you have your ABCs and when you're instructed to do your ABCs, I would always turn on the back of the paper, start drawing immediately.
Wow.
So I knew I really wanted to be an artist all my life, but as far as making a living from it, I've been making a living from it since elementary school. So
let me find out, you were in the lunchroom trading your artwork.
Exactly,
for PB&J.
Exactly, portraits, whatever needed to be.
Right.
So
Right.
I've been an entrepreneur for a long time, but
Okay.
I consider what I do, like many entrepreneurs, not work because we're so passionate about it, and there's a love for it.
Yeah.
So it's like working is like just creating every day. So.
It doesn't even feel like work.
Right, exactly.
It feels like fun. So what's interesting is, you're pursuing a career that traditionally, or you have been accomplished, right? You've accomplished so much in a career that traditionally, when folks say they're going to pursue visual or creative arts, they're told, oh, well, you can do that. I'm glad you're interested in that hobby, but what's your real job going to be? How are you going to earn a living? But did you kind of come up against that, or what was your thought?
You know what? By the grace of God, my family was very supportive. My mom always took me to auditions for, visual programs. My dad had private oil painting lessons.
Oh, wow.
So it was really never, people telling me that artists are broke and all that. Of course that existed growing up, but I had the support of my family. So most people don't get that. So I'm very blessed with that. So I didn't really experience that internally or with my family, but most definitely I've heard that before.
Right. So they basically saw that you had talent, and then they honed your skills and nurtured that craft.
Exactly.
I love that, because then we get the benefit of Derek Blanks now.
Exactly.
So that's a good thing. So but you didn't go right into visual arts. You held a lot of different jobs, right?
Right.
Talk about what you did before you became who you are today.
Okay, so all the jobs I've done, I've always started from the bottom or from the ground level. So my first job, and our parents instilled in us, like we wanted cars when we were growing up. So we did the illegal thing where we lied about our age and started working prematurely early, 15.
I did that for a credit card when I was younger.
Oh, really?
My first credit card started at 16.
Okay, but you kept that credit up.
I kept the credit up, exactly. Thanks, parents.
So yeah, I worked as a bag boy.
Okay.
And then at Jitney Premier, Jackson, Mississippi, And we were forced to kind of save up our down payment, which we built our parents' credit. So I have a twin brother and an older brother. So we were forced to save up. I can't remember back then, maybe $5,000.
Okay.
So we saved it up, and we all had Saturns, and we were forced to pay the monthly payments and all
the
that.
insurance. What about insurance? Okay.
So it really made us realize the value of credit and responsibility. But I started off there, and then I worked my way to being the store artist. Because the store at Jitney Jungle, they would have all these different stores. So they would have competitions for Super Bowl or whatever's going on. So I would create art for that. And then I was promoted to the produce chalkboard, so I used to do the produce signs as well.
So wait a minute. There is a job. I always thought that they hired people and they said, hey, you, do that chalkboard. You're pretty good at art. So they actually hire somebody to put those amazing drawings on the pricing, right? For oranges or cantaloupes.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. So now we see that in the local Kroger, you could have the next Derek Blanks right there in your neighborhood. I'm just saying.
Right. Okay. You just can't erase it.
But did you, that's funny. But did you look for that job or?
My brother worked as a cashier there.
Okay.
So we kind of used our resources, and then we would all work together. Like he would pull us in. So we started, because he was a cashier, we started as the bag boys or whatever. But I've always kind of looked for different ways to grow within the companies or elevate and find ways to do things that I like to do.
So are you a proponent of take the leap, jump right into entrepreneurship, or hone your side hustle and then ease into it?
I'm a little bit of both, to be honest. But I feel like if you're an entrepreneur and if it's your passion, your side hustle, you have to do whatever you have to do financially and, physically, mentally to get there. So if that means working at Walmart or working night stocking, you have to do that and do your thing on the side. You really don't want it if you're not putting in that extra time to do what you need to get there. Most people want instant gratification, or most people look at my accomplishments and think, hey, I want to be the next Derek Blanks, but they don't realize it's been 20 plus years to get where I am, and I'm nowhere where I would like to be or where I plan to be. I still always look to go bigger and better each time, and I think most people just see things and want to do it, and it doesn't work that way. And most of the time, unfortunately, they're not successful.
Right.
Like somebody may say, hey, look, I want to do a podcast because of all the popular podcasts.
Right.
But if their intentions are genuine and for the right reasons, they're not gonna, or they're no passion, there's 9 times out of 10, it's not gonna be a success. So
when did you realize that your creativity, your talent could actually be monetized?
I realized it early on because, the first thing people would say, I'll pay you to do a portrait or whatever. So when I first started, before photography, I was drawing. I was doing portraits. I remember starting with, when you're a kid growing up, poster contest for Black History Month, Martin Luther King.
I did the essay contest.
Okay,
Yeah.
see? So you knew your skill set.
I actually got to tell Dr. Bernice King, hey, I won the MLK essay contest in elementary school. It was kind of corny,
Wow.
but those things, I mean, I love that you mentioned that because those things may seem small when you're doing it, but you actually reference that, right, as an adult and as you kind of go throughout your career, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's very important. And it really builds the foundation of where we stand now and what we're doing now. Like my homeboy, Michael Burton, he's a saxophonist. And he was like opposite of me. So basically we're the same age, but I was going for visual arts. He was going for music.
Okay.
So he went to Berkeley. I went to Maryland Institute College of Art. He's worked for, been on tour with, currently he did Super Bowl with Usher, Patti LaBelle, Jill Scott. It's like we both were most talented and in the Hall of Fame. And our passions were equal, but there were two different fields. But we always perfected that, and we knew what we wanted to do and worked hard.
So if you had to hire, that's a perfect analogy. So two people, different schools, similar but creative, but different tracks. What was the it that you feel that you see that you have and that he had that made it so that both of you were super successful in your own right?
I think most definitely education, perfecting that, the passion, the practice for sure, like deciding what we wanted to do at an early age, and the consistency in practicing. Most people don't have that nowadays. There's so many talented people, and people are concerned and worried about AI, and even in photography and whatever, voiceovers, actors,
Right.
but it's never going to compete with real humans. Like, you use those tools. Like, I use AI to this day, but AI, perfect example, it would jack a real human's hand up, and they haven't perfected those things. Or if
You have
you
like
don't-
8 fingers or
Right,
something like that. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
if you don't know, or you don't have the background of illustration and drawing, anatomy, you won't know what to look for, or you may not know what to correct.
Right.
And it's still a machine at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't worry about those things. We should embrace them and use them as tools to perfect ourselves and be more proficient.
Yeah, even from a business perspective, we tell people, AI and emerging technology, those are accelerators. Those are enablers, but you always have to have a human at the center. In fact, AI, when we talk about training the model and learning, it's learning from humans. So you're still going to have humans because we're ever evolving. So I love that as a creative at the top of your game, you're not fearful, right? And
Right.
you recognize that there's a role kind of for everything. But I want to talk about that not being fearful and that courage. Because one of the things that I hear as a thread between yourself and even your friend is passion, but then also you didn't see it as an option. So who told you that you could? Who told you that you would
Right.
be as successful as you are?
You know what? And this may sound cliche, but I have to say God did. Like, every single situation that I've been in, I've always worried, hey, how am I going to make it financially, or how I'm going to how I'm going to survive for my family or whatever. Or funds may be like growing up as an entrepreneur, I'm sure, especially with creatives, we get a check or we get money and we think, oh, we rich. And we spend it and we don't realize, hey, that's not our money to spend. Hey, I worked for it. So it just disappears with taxes and all these other things, and mismanage of your money, paying yourself, putting stuff aside. So there have been situations where I will not have any money, and I'll be like, oh, what? I'm gonna have to take out a loan, I'm gonna have to do something. And then all of a sudden God would be like, okay, you got this job. And it's the equivalent of 3 months of work.
Wow.
So I used to worry about that, even when I'm on set with a production and it's raining like it was earlier. And the shot was supposed to be outside summer vibes.
Right.
I don't even worry about that anymore, because every situation, every production, when it's time to perform, it's okay. The sky will come out and it'll be
Sky
beautiful.
will clear. And,
Right.
I think that aligns with a theme that when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and you're following what the ministry or the goal that God has for you, everything is going to fall in place. You won't
Exactly.
hit roadblocks. It'll just, and when you realize that and you let go of the stress, then you can actually direct and redirect that energy towards what you need to do. And I hear that from you, right? That you were able to just say, you know what, I'm going to let go. I'm going to let God and just follow my passion and what I know, the gift that God has given me.
Exactly.
I love that.
Thank you.
You also tap in onto something else that I hear from our creatives. Even in Business Boost Society, we have a separate neighborhood within there. And the creatives, I often hear them say, I'm a creative. I'm really good at what I do. I'm not really good at the business side. So how do you recommend they strike that balance between some of the things that you said, right? Keeping your infrastructure and your business in order while still giving yourself the time to be the creative?
Right. Really, it really depends on your financial situation, on what your end goal and what your execution will have to be. So if I'm first starting and I don't have the funds to hire accountants and do what I need to, I always tell my assistants all the time, YouTube University. I go research, I figure out what to do, what's best for my company, and then I move on. Like, thank God I'm at the point now where, you know, I have an accountant, but if times were slow, I mean, communication is key. I would talk to my accountant, hey, I can't afford you every year, but what can we do to keep myself in a situation where I maybe quarterly you pay, or maybe he gives you QuickBooks, he gives you
So
options.
have you heard of the concept of the fractional
No.
C-suite? So now people are talking about it like where you have a fractional CFO or a fractional chief strategy officer, where it's exactly your point, but you're luminary. So you live this where you realize you need the services. You don't need 100% because you can't afford it, but can I just get a piece of your time? Because if you have 4 businesses that are getting 25% of your time, you just cut your costs by 75%, but you're still getting the value that you have. So I think you not only invented alter egos, I think you could say you invented the fractional role. No,
I'll take that.
So that makes sense. So you basically were transparent, right, about what you needed. But how did you know what you needed?
It's a day-to-day process. Like, I think the biggest thing that people don't realize is learning from your mistakes.
Okay.
I try not to make the same mistakes twice. So when I spent all my money before and I got a loan, my accountant at the time told me to get a $100,000 loan. And, you know, that's good to build my business, but when you're an entrepreneur, you're an artist, you say 100,000, that's a lot, you know. That's not gonna go anywhere anytime soon. And then you look at the interest on the loan and paying it back and all that, and it's gone in a year.
Pretty much.
And you're like, damn, where did it go? Like, how did I get in a negative? I won't make that same mistake again. It was an expensive one. But the issue that most people make is when they do have an issue with something or they run into a problem, they repeat the same mistake instead of trying to make sure that doesn't happen again or preventing themselves from going in that situation
and
again.
Learn. And you know, you're so right, because you know, when we're providing mentorship to entrepreneurs, you see that. You see the same mistake over and over because they're just going so fast. They don't take the time to pause and say, wait a minute, what did I do wrong that I need to kind of course correct going forward? So that is I think it's such valuable advice. I also hear when you talked about that Saturn that you got, you had credit. You have to have credit in order to be able to be responsive to an accountant that says you need a $100,000 loan. So I don't want to skip that step, right? So it sounds like your family was very business oriented, financially minded. Do you feel like that was
Yes, that's
big
most
boost?
definitely was instilled in me and my brothers. And I think it's very important. And I try to learn from that. And that's probably why I'm so hard on myself when there are ups and downs and you have to find other ways to kind of make it. So yeah, I'm grateful for that. And I think that's very important as a business, even if it's not to be over in debt, but to make sure you do establish and you work on your credit for that reason.
Man, yeah, totally makes sense. You know, one of the other things that I would love to get your input on, because folks ask, for other creatives, and it's not even just creative businesses, there's so many business owners that have products or services. And I say, if you had anything you needed to boost your business today, what would it be? I need marketing. I just need a celebrity client. I need one celebrity client to just try my product or service and help get me out there, leverage their following. So we know Derek blanks today, but how did you get the recognition, the notoriety, the relationships that you have today? Where'd you start?
Most definitely, I built my brand by working with celebrities.
Okay.
But with anybody outside of being a celebrity, you have to first you have to establish what's going to be beneficial for them.
Okay.
Because if it's not beneficial for everyone, it doesn't make sense.
So the value proposition.
Right.
Why come to you?
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. And also, how are they going to benefit? How is the celebrity going to benefit from it? So everybody wants to be a celebrity photographer, makeup artist, or whatever. But what's going to make that celebrity want to work with you? So first, you need to find your niche and kind of differentiate yourself amongst the other people. Mine perhaps was the fact that I was an artist, illustration, photography, painting. And I fused the photography, I fused all those elements into my photography.
Got it.
So I did the surreal thing, like the alter ego, or the illusion of something that's not true, and painting with light.
But how did you come up with that? That's so unique and so different.
I think with the alter ego, most definitely, Initially, I thought it was from watching Top Model and seeing them do it. But I realized that when I was in college, I did it. And we had a self-portrait assignment. And this was in traditional black and white photography. So I would use a tripod, put it on timer. Back then it's called a double exposure. So, and we were in the dark room. So I would expose it for a certain amount of time. And then I would set the timer again and do the other side.
I feel like we have to pause the show for this to just like translate for people who don't understand splicing and a dark room.
Okay,
and all,
most definitely.
But all good, all good. I'm with you.
So yeah, so basically before Photoshop,
Right.
you do these tricks in the dark room.
Right.
It's
manual.
Right. I mean, which is still important. That kind of goes back to whatever your trade, do your research on it. You know, computers, there could be an asset, but they also can hinder us from, like, I've heard now that a lot of kids don't know how to write because they're typing on keyboards or they're talking short, like they're on text.
Or ChatGPT.
Right.
There's that part. the whole education.
Right.
Hi, can you create my whole K through 12 curriculum?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's important to go through whatever your foundation is and just do the research and do it. But to get back on track, you were asking me about, like, oh, how did I come up with it? So I realized at that point when seeing it on Top Model that I had already done it, but I was like, how cool, when I was watching Top Model, they always had the model to the left and to the right. And I was like, how cool would it be if they were actually interacting where she's grabbing her hand or she's doing this? That's where I took my background in the illustration and added the drop shadow, you know, redrew this. As they say, like pre-AI, I was AI. So creating shadows and illusion to make it seem surreal.
Right.
So that's what separated me. And most photographers, you know, growing up and going to school with it, it was a division between fine art and commercial art in art school. So I was the one taking the graphic design classes, taking the all the classes, because financially I knew I wanted to be able to sustain being an artist. I just didn't know what direction I was going to go in.
Right.
So I think it's important, whatever niche, to be well-rounded. Like if you're in makeup, how much more valuable would you be if you know how to do hair as well?
Right.
And also perfecting all of that where you're not a jack of all, but the master of none.
It's related and it's focused,
Right.
but it's adding to, you know, I love that because, you know, you talk about being very deliberate from elementary school to what you chose to study in college, and then fast forward to the Derek Blanks that we know and the alter ego shoot, you actually referenced, hey, I think I want to leverage shadow. Well, you're not going to pay attention to shadow and gradient as much if you learn on a computer and just click a button versus you being in that dark room and making a mistake and then having to go back and say, maybe the exposure is a little too much. So I love that lesson to hone your craft and learn all elements of your craft to the detail, because that's what you have pulled from to be the creative genius that you are.
Well, thank you.
So I'm going to ask you to pull from something. So if I had an alter ego shoot that we were going to do, what would you recommend for my alter ego? I wore black just so you had a clean palette to decide, and I didn't influence you.
Okay, so most definitely the obvious comes to me that you would be interviewing yourself for one. So you'd be on this side over here. Now I would be like, and this is what I used to do with celebrities. What would you be doing if you weren't interviewing for podcasts? Or if you did something completely different, what would that be? That's what I would ask you.
Don't laugh, but immediately when you said that, I love trees. I have this thing with trees. I don't know why I love trees, but I love trees. And so I would probably be somewhere in nature, near water or trees.
Okay. Would you be a gardener or?
No.
Okay.
We will not be toiling. I said I'm just going to sit and appreciate. So what would I be doing, like occupation-wise?
I mean, even if we went that way, if you want to be a naturalist or whatever here, you would be up here like very Erykah Badu. On the opposite side, maybe.
Probably just, I see myself walking through trails and just appreciating the water and having a little hut on the side where people can, like, I mean, there's always going to be something entrepreneurial, but, you know, grab a nice little drink or, a libation or like a smoothie, and just something where I can come in at 10, maybe not, maybe on Tuesdays, like very easy,
Okay.
flowy.
So I would paint your character as yourself, very polished and a little bit more reserved. And then so people can see the juxtapose, it would be an extreme. So you may be up here extremely natural, earth tones, natural hair, or loins, like animal skin or something. It could need to be as,
I like that. I like where you're going with that.
Yeah, very natural. It'll be some rocks on the table, maybe a plant or flower or something
I think
like
you're
that.
describing my retirement home at this point. That's why you do what you do. That's so good. And it's funny because you're talking about the juxtaposition. I actually learned about juxtaposition in college in a film class, and when we were talking about film techniques. So you are literally like the life that you describe, because you pull from all these different elements.
Well,
but I always go brass tacks.
Okay.
So because folks hold me to it. They say, well, why didn't you ask this? So how did you get your first, like, once they figure out their value proposition, so we heard you, right? Hey, this is what I do different. This is where I can add value. How do I find my first celebrity? Like, do I just go to conferences? Like, how did you do it?
So a lot of times, people tell me this all the time too, and I know I could do it more so. They tell me all the time I don't use my resources and that I'm very well connected. And then I never think of it like that. I know music producers, executive producers, music artists, and I'm the type of person that don't want to ask. I don't like asking people for something. Somebody be like, okay, Missy Elliott's got a concert. Can you give me some tickets? No, I'm not gonna ask her for like any of my clients, I'm not gonna do it.
Right.
And I think that's part of the reason why they respect me and they appreciate me too, because they know I'm not doing it. But I would say, look in your back pocket. The Alter Ego Project, the first one I did was Eva Pickford. And I remember back in my MySpace days, I believe MySpace, I met her cousin in a photo of her. So he does makeup or whatever. And I was like, I would love to test with Eva. And at that point, I was doing other top models too, because it was the #1 show, reality show.
Right.
So I shot her and I was like, okay, I'm gonna use Eva she loved it. Whenever you get an opportunity, go over and beyond. I still do that to this day, but that's how you seal the deal.
Gotcha.
So back in the day, and still to this day, they call them test shoots. They basically are free shoots.
Okay.
So I would test with models to build my portfolios, and I would study and research. So I would look in magazines like Essence, Vogue, look at the ads, recreate it, bring in my entire team. We were all on the same level. They knew they would get hair, makeup, wardrobe. They knew they would get quality images from me. So we all came in with the same energy. And a lot of times people mess up because they may go for somebody who's established to begin with, who's not hungry. If everybody comes in there to produce this final portfolio that looks amazing, everybody wins. So I hit up Eva and I was like, can you do my Alter Ego project? And I used it as a demo. So I created it and I showed other celebrities, reached out to publicists. At that time, blog websites were very popular before social media. YBF, Nicole Bitchie, Sandra Rose. We would submit.
You did your homework.
I did it. Yeah. We would submit them to all of it. Next thing I knew, every blog and all the celebrities was like, oh, I need this press. I need me to do me an alter ego. And the next thing I knew, it snowballed. I'm shooting Snoop Dogg and his wife, Mike Epps and his wife as the Obamas, and it just blew up. And a lot of times people don't know this, but the alter ego was popping before the Housewives. I remember I had no idea the magnitude of it.
Right.
And the reason I pitched it to Nene from a test shoot is because I saw the magnitude of it. I shot all of Atlanta. I shot a lot of LA. I shot Tiana Taylor when she was a kid, right after my Sweet 16. This was like 20 years ago.
So you just your word of mouth.
Yeah, it was crazy. And what I did was I had just shot Tiny maternity photos. And this was right when T.I. was in jail. And I think at that same moment, I was producing an exhibit for my alter ego show, which included Janelle Monáe, CeeLo Green, and all this. Janelle was on the come up at that time too. Like all these artists, DJ Toomp, Monica, Vanessa Williams, Lisa Ray McCoy, all these people.
Wow.
So I had this art show, which I paid for myself, and all these celebrities came to the art show. And the magnitude, that was my first major event. I was like 500. It was unbelievable. Like I was like, what in the world?
It just snowballed.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, it just made me realize, wow, this is major. And film directors like, music video directors like Brian Barber, they came out and supported CeeLo Green. And it just, and I was like, I'm really sitting on something. So I took that moment in time and I was like, I'm gonna proposition Nene and do it again.
In a good way, business-wise. Okay,
Right.
I just want to clarify.
Thank you.
But go ahead.
Thank you. And she was like, sure. She was like, but I want to direct. And I mean, sometimes you have to step back and take the seat, the smaller seat. She was like, I want to direct it. I was like, okay, I don't care. Because I was thinking about the magnitude of how many households I would be in. And we did it. And nobody knew it. Of course, the people online knew about the project, but nobody on TV knew about my alter ego project. And I remember when that aired, first off, just financially, the chance I took, because I spent $5,000 on framing all of those old alter egos, finding a house to display all of the work for the actual TV show once it was done, to put all of that up.
But you've always invested in yourself. Like I
Yeah.
heard you saying that you did the test shoots and those were free, right? So you spent the time like marketing. So I hear a theme of having, and in business we call it a wedge, right? So there may be like that first piece of work that you do just to get you in the door because it's going to create other opportunities. So not only did you financially invest in yourself, you also put your ego aside, because the minute she told you, well, I want to direct, you didn't say, oh, no, Derek Blanks has to be the name on top. You said, you know what? There's a bigger picture here. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so keep going. I want to hear the rest of the story. So
You're all good.
Yeah.
So, you know, and the challenges I had there. So first it was $5,000 to do this. And, you know, I'm not a big saver, never have been before. So I don't even know where I got the funds for it, but I got the funds to get them printed and all that. So long story short, we get to the house where we're going to display the stuff and it has no power in it. Then it's an hour from the city. So it's back in Alpharetta again.
wow.
So
Don't talk about Alpharetta.
I love
Come on. We're not gonna talk bad about Alpharetta, but I hear you. I hear
Yeah, so we get there, and then my assistant called me, right? And my assistant's like, hey, there's no power here. Then we couldn't get the pictures in the house, and it was,
oh my gosh.
my truck got stuck on the hill. So it was all these challenges, but it came off amazing, like, just to look back at it, like,
How do you get power? Come on, you can't make this magic.
you
How
know,
did you fix
we
this?
called the realtor,
Okay.
and they did whatever they had to,
Okay.
because it was a show house. So I guess because it was a house for show, they didn't really have any power. in it.
Right. Okay.
So, you know, all those things, that could have been a reality show in itself. And, you know, I just realized that you have to seize the opportunity. You have to work hard. And I believe that anybody successful in what they do, all these people that are successful actors and actresses, they come from small towns. And what separates them from, you know, what separates Oprah, who's from Mississippi, from anybody else, or Julia Roberts, who's from Georgia, and make them go to LA and become a superstar, or Fantasia, who's from North Carolina.
So what is it?
I think it's that drive and that work ethic and never giving up. Never giving up. I think most people give up way too soon.
So what's next for Derek Blanks?
What's next for me? I've been saying this, but I'm really going to start doing it. I'm going to be doing motion picture films. So I'm going to start with a short. I'm going to go ahead and force myself to put a short out there. I want to do something called Colorblind, which is about me as an artist, like growing up, and how, you know, everyday people don't see what we see. So, you know, I worked with the seamstress Maria Harper, who used to do Tyler Perry's clothing wardrobe, and we would do stuff. We would test shoot, and low key, she wanted to be a fashion designer, so she would design these outfits, and we would test shoots with models. And she was like, "D, I don't get it. It's like we don't see what you see until we see the picture and they see the lighting and how I took my foundation to painting with light, and then they saw the picture, and she's like, that's not what we see in real life." So the colorblind would be about that. It'll be how everybody sees in black and white, but the little boy sees in full color.
I love that.
So I'm going to go ahead and do it.
We got to hold you accountable to that. Okay, so then before we go, I want to ask you, so I have this thing in Give Me a Boost, the book, where we talk about expanding your revenue streams for businesses. And so one of the things that I share is that there are 4 areas, right? The 4 C's for making sure you have a diversified revenue stream and you're not depending too much on one area. So I'm going to go through each of them and you're going to say yes or no, whether you have tapped into that revenue stream. So individual customers.
Yes.
Okay. Corporations.
Yes.
Okay. Collaborations.
Yes.
Okay. This is a bit. Government contracts.
No.
We got to work on that.
Okay, most definitely.
We got to work on that. So I love
definitely.
that. Even luminaries need opportunities to expand. That's
I love
great.
that.
I mean, you have shared so much. I think about, and I know we need to eat, but I think about what you shared, that when you started with that alter ego, the test, you actually went on MySpace with Eva. You know what? Not tapping into resources. When I was in college, do you remember AOL Black Voices?
Yeah.
I mean, this is back when you log into AOL and it goes dee-doo-doo-doo. Yes, back in that day. I met Genuine and his brother on AOL Black Voices.
Oh, for real?
I should have tapped into it then, but I didn't tap into it.
Man.
I could have been riding ponies somewhere right now. You know what I'm saying? But we need to go ahead and start eating. And while you're eating and your mouth is full, I'm going to pitch you, I think, colorblind. Let me know when the auditions are, because I think I have accents. I do all types of things.
Okay, most definitely.
All right. Enjoy. Bon
Most
appetit.
definitely.